So, oh, hold on, it's asking me to, if I want to continue. Yes, there we go. So today I'm going to talk about my book, Welcome Home Wales, which has recently been released in the US and Canada. And I'm really excited because I actually have another version of the book here, which is quite different to look at, slightly different title, but the same story. This is the Australian version, and it's really nice to be able to share stories across the world, and especially about species that are endangered, and learning about how we can protect them and the things that we can do ourselves to make our world a better place. Because without these creatures, if they go, then there's a bit of a dominoes effect and it starts to impact us all. So, and that's why I write a lot of the stories. You can see some behind me, some are funny, but a lot are about animals who we need to look after better, and so that we can understand them as well. So I'm living in Tasmania, which is a small, let's see if I can get my camera to focus on that. There we go. You see the little heart-shaped island that the arrow is pointing to. So that's Tasmania, and that's one of the states of Australia, the southernmost state. And I live in a city called Hobart, it's our capital city. It's the second oldest city in Australia. It's not as old as a lot of the places in the US, but it's, for us, it's old. And you can see under the arrow, actually, you can see there's New Zealand, so we're not very far away. Try to get the glare.
I see you. Yeah.
There you go. So that's New Zealand. And so we're down at the colder end of the planet, but it's a really lovely place to live. And the story Welcome Home Wales came from a newspaper article that I read, and it was about a whale who had swum into the Derwent River, which is the river here in Hobart, and had had a calf. And that's really exciting. But what was more exciting is that it was the first calf born in the river in over 190 years. And I thought to myself, well, okay, 190, what's the big deal with that? I mean, obviously they've been missing. So I did a lot of research and discovered that the river and the areas around Tasmania, especially the bottom of Tasmania and around the bottom of South Africa as well, were the birthing grounds for southern right whales. So we have 3 species of right whale on the planet, and below the equator, in the south, we have the southern right whale, which is the whale that I've actually written about. They're actually very similar. There's very few differences between the 3 species. The only reason that there are 3 is because they are separated by the equator. They can't swim through warm water. They have to stay in cold water. Anyway, this whale came into what used to be the whaling, the birthing area for those whales, and came back and had this calf. And sadly, the reason I found out why they left was because of extreme whaling when the European settlers came to this part of the world, and they hunted them to near extinction in a matter of 4 or 5 years after arriving. So I thought to myself, well, how did this whale know that it was okay to come back, that it was safe? Why did it take over 190 years? So then I had the beginnings of a story, because stories always start with a question. We start with a question, we ask ourselves, we go looking for answers, and then we grow that story with those answers, and then we get more questions and more answers. And so I thought, how did this whale know? And I thought, they don't live for 190 years. So how did she know? Was she just being brave? And probably, yes, she was. But I started to wonder whether whales, like us, because they're mammals as well, and they do communicate with each other, whether they tell their children stories like we do. And that's where I came up with the idea of this whale swimming down the river and telling, well, initially I had written the story that she was singing her stories and this young boy could hear it. But then I discovered, I was devastated, that right whales are the only whales on the planet that don't sing. they grunt and they moo. I thought, well, that doesn't sound quite right. I said she grunted her way down the river. So I had to think about it. I thought, well, I'll just go back to story because that's what she's telling. And so we edited it and came up with that. And that's the wonderful thing. As you write a story, you research and you find out amazing things. So I wrote this story about this whale telling her story to a young human boy about what she was frightened of. Why did they get sent away? Why were humans like that? And of course, this little boy didn't really know about that story. And it wasn't his responsibility. He didn't make those decisions or those choices. But as we have learned, the word sorry is a very powerful thing. And so this little boy represents us all when he says to the whale, sorry, because he was very sad and very sorry that that's what we had done. Now, that was the first whale that anyone had actually really seen of that species of whale in the river here in a very long time. And now we have quite a few of them, and we're very lucky to have that. They swim up from Antarctica in the winter, and they come and have their calves in the winter. And they're the most playful of whales. They jump really high and leap, and they're wonderful to see. And I'm actually looking forward to going on a special cruise on a boat that goes out to see the whales. And so we'll be out not far from where I live. So that's why I wrote the story. That's what the story is about. It's a story that has hope because I like to look forward, and I like stories to have hope because it encourages us to feel that we can succeed, because I believe we can if we focus and we learn and we know and understand. And then we also learn from history. We can't change what's happened, but we can be sorry for it, and we can adapt ourselves to do things better because we are sorry. So that's why sorry is such a powerful thing, and that's why I've put it in the book. So yeah, I think I should read it to you. Would you like me to read it to you? Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Now, in the US version, it refers to not a river, but a bay. And I suppose that's because I don't know how many rivers you have that you would have whales swimming into, or maybe it's just a different way of terming that area. The river that I live on is very, very big. It has a huge island in the middle of it at the mouth of the river, and called Bruny Island. And that takes 2.5 hours to drive from one end of it to the other. And so that's only on one side of the river. So it's a pretty big river. And it's a big saltwater river. And I've got the wrong book. That's really scary. What I've done, I just got caught out. I put the cover from Welcome Home Wales onto my Australian version book so I can put it on display. And then I have Welcome Home Wales, and now I'm panicking because I can't see it. Give me 2 secs. I'm really sorry. Okay. Oh, that's very embarrassing. My whole studio has been taken apart, and I've got the screen up to hide the mess behind me because I've got workmen in here putting in a heater, and I fear that it has actually been moved over to the other end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the Australian version, and I apologise for that. It is a little bit different, but it might be the only chance you get to hear the Australian version.
True.
So here we go. The American version is subtly different, but not a lot. It tells the same story. Pictures are the same as well. When I heard her call, it came from the river, echoing off the mountain like a whisper, while the moon danced on the waves. Mum hadn't heard anything, and Dad couldn't hear it either. Perhaps you were dreaming, said Grandma. Each morning I hear her call, and each day she comes closer, telling me something new. Sometimes she is full of joy. Sometimes she is sad. It tugs at my heart as I listen. The mornings are cold and dark. Her stories grow louder, carried beneath the breath of the wind. I hug myself under the blankets until she wakes me from my dreams. Now I know why she is calling. I rug up against the cold and run to the river's edge. I wait for her by the night sky water and listen to the waves push in and out against the shore. I hear her story. She is telling of her fear and darkness. Her story turns inside my head and twists around my heart, and I don't want to listen anymore. I want to run away and hide, but I stay, looking for her in the cold winter dawn. Then, as dark shifts to grey, I see her. She looks for me and comes in closer to the shore. We wanted to come home, but we did not feel safe, she says. Why did they hurt us? Why did they send us away? I hang my head. It wasn't me, but I know what she means. I do not know what to say. I have one word to tell her. Sorry, I whisper. My heart aches as she turns and swims away, slapping her flukes like a clap of thunder on the waves. She is gone. As the sun lifts into the sky, I see her. People gather on the shore to watch her in the winter dawn. I hear her calling again, softly and gently, but not to me. A small tail lifts from the water. A steamy spout breaches above the waves. Her baby lifts its head to see the new world. Now I hear two voices calling with a story of new beginnings, of hope and forgiveness. We are safe, she calls. Welcome home, I say. Welcome home, echoes the mountain. And at the back of the book, there's some slightly different information for the US. This is the Australian one, which talks about where the story came from, but there's bits of information and facts about Wales, about the Southern Right Wales. And I'm sure you'll enjoy reading those as well. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. There we go. Thank you. So I do apologise. I tricked myself instead of tricking everybody else with my cover. In Australia, it's very unusual to have a dust jacket on our books. So in the US, you obviously do. So I was very excited to get a book that had a dust jacket, and it came in very handy because I've only got one copy of the book. So it meant that I could read the book and have one up on display if I put the dust jacket on the other book. And so I have tricked myself and didn't even think about that. So there we go. So always be wary of books in dust jackets. You never know who they are. Okay, so I'm going to draw for you today. You can go onto my website or Blue Dot Kids Press website, and they have a recorded version of me pencil drawing a whale and showing you how to do that. There's also a downloadable sheet, and I've just dropped that on the floor. There we go. There's also a downloadable sheet that you can print off that will tell you the steps to go through to draw a whale. So what I'm doing is I'm going to adjust my camera so you can see what I'm drawing on. So you can see that I'm really drawing and it's not a trick. Here we go.
Oh, I love that.
So I'm just going to, oh, actually I'll have to hit share screen. Oh, okay. So can you enable me to share screen, please?
Okay. I think you can now.
Okay, let's see how we go. Yes, there we go. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go into, here we go. So this is my drawing screen. And this is a really big drawing tablet that is very pressure. I have a very pressure sensitive pen, and it's just like holding a nice fat pen. And I can pick up all sorts of tools on this side. And I have a few more than that, but that's all I need for today. And I can have all sorts of different, you can pretend they're like sheets of paper, and I can have as many sheets as I like, and you can see through them. Normally, when I do a book, sometimes I do them this way, but Welcome Home Wales was created on a cotton rag paper. That means paper that's made out of cotton, and it's very coarse. I wanted a really rough paper, so we got that sort of sea, salty sort of texture. I drew it with pencil and then painted it with watercolor and gouache, and I used crayon as well, and little spray bottles to get the water splash on it. And I also use salt. If you put rock salt onto wet watercolor paint, it sucks the pigment up, the color up. And when you brush it off when it's all dry, it leaves these beautiful splotchy patterns on the paper, and you can see them on the whale. So today I'm going to draw for you this way so you can actually see how I draw this whale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in some shapes, because everything on the planet is made of shapes. Even the spaces around things are made of shapes. And when our brain looks at things and says, oh my gosh, a whale is really hard to draw, you can just look at the shapes instead of looking at the whole whale. And that way your brain can say, oh, well, I know how to draw that shape. And so you can do it. So I reckon everyone can have a go at this. So I'm going to start with drawing up some shapes. I'm not worried about them being really neat. And if I make a mistake, I'm just going to sketch them in. And these are like a map that I'm drawing to help me work out how to draw a whale. I'm going to draw a triangle there, which is obviously going to be the tail. And the good thing about this, if you're doing this on paper, you would probably use a soft pencil and you don't have to press very hard. When we get really stressed about doing something, we have a tendency to make our muscles go really tight. So when we're worried about drawing a picture and getting it right, we tend to hang on to our pencils really tightly, and then we press really, really hard. So these are the flukes. Do you remember in the story we talked about the flukes slapping the water? And when they do that, it makes this big booming noise. It's really amazing. And then they jump and come out of the water. Okay, and now we're going to just put in where the mouth goes. This is the mouth. Right whales are baleen whales. And what that means is that when they open their mouths really wide, so it opens up and leaves a big area here at the bottom, and this bit here opens up and goes up here like that. Let's write that out now. They have these long hair-like strands inside their mouths that help them to catch krill. And then they use their tongues, once they've collected that, to scrape it out of the baleen in their mouths and flick it into the back of their mouths so they can eat it. Okay, and that's where the eye is going to go. Okay, so it does look a little like a whale. And if you wanted to, you could turn it into a robot whale. You could put little rivets in and make it into a robot. But we're not going to do that today. I'll show you how to draw a regular looking whale, but there's all sorts of things you can do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work out how to do that. And if you press really lightly, you can rub out your lines as you go, the bits you don't need. And you won't leave a big dent in your paper, which is what happens when we press too hard, and it makes it hard to rub out the pictures. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to my next piece of paper because I have to on the computer. If I was on a regular sheet of paper, I would just draw over the top a little bit carefully, and then I'd rub out the lines that I don't need. So we're going to go up here, and you can see how I'm using it as my map to draw the whale. And what's really important is, and you'll see on the sheet, if you download it and print it off, you will see that there is a picture of a whale, this is the right whale at the top. And it's always very important to look at that picture so you can see which way things are meant to go. Because our brains, as clever as they are, when it comes to drawing, they think they know everything, but they don't know very much at all. And it's our eyes that tell us what we need to know. Here we go. Okay, and the mouth. And the eye. They have almost human-like eyes. And in the book, you can see in one of the pictures, that picture where it says the whale is very sad. Let's see if we can find it. See if you can see that there. If you see the eye, you can see the silhouette of a ship in her eye. And I thought that it would show that she could see a ship that we can't see that's there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is we start to decorate, or it's not decorate, but we start to bring in the finer details. It's like when you build a house, you've got to make your foundations, and then you've got to put the walls and the roof on before you can hang up your curtains. And it's the same with drawing. So we're going to put these little knobbly bits that you see on the top of whales and on the right whales, and they're called calicites or callosities, and they're made from calcium, and it's a bit like bacteria help it to grow, but they're born with these calicites, and then the bacteria move in and help them sort of become really hard and firm, and barnacles like to stick to them as well, but they're like their fingerprints. So each whale has unique markings so that people, if they're studying them, it's very handy, they can see which whale it is. Okay. And then they have slightly lighter patches underneath. And I think that's probably because it helps them to blend in. They're pretty big and they're very black in colour. But if the water is shining on things or light comes through the water, it gives you these little dappled marks. And so this would help them to move through the water and perhaps not be seen quite as easily from a distance. So there we go. Now we've got our drawing, our outline of the whale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and normally I would just on the computer do that. See, that's cheating, isn't it? But because we're all watching, and normally you would use an eraser. So I'm going to use the eraser on my pen. You can see I just turned my pen upside down like it was a pencil with an eraser on the top. So it's really cool. It's very much like drawing on a regular piece of paper. And I don't mind leaving little marks. It doesn't have to be perfect because I think that adds to the texture. Yep, a bit there. Okay, so now we've got our whale. What we can do is we can go in and we can colour it in, or we can paint it. You can make it whatever colour you like. You could do rainbow whales or whatever you like. In the wild, they have this blackish blue grey colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and find, here it is, a piece of charcoal, and I'm going to colour that in. And the bits that I don't want to have coloured in that have ended up going a bit over the edge, I can rub them out. And then I'm going to make just a little bit darker along the bottom. There we go. Now, what we can do now is we can come in and we can, lost my pencil, there it is. We can put in some lines that make it look like it's swimming through the water. And you could even do those with a white crayon, and then you could paint in the background, and where the white crayon is, you'd get white lines and it would stop the colour of the water coming in. Now, right whales are roughly about 18 metres. Now, I've written that down, hold on, about 59 feet. So long, so about the size of a school bus, supposedly. So next time you see the school bus, that's about roughly the size of a right whale. So if we put in any fish, they're not going to be very big. There we go. We could put a slightly bigger one in here. Let's put in a bigger one here. That can be a tuna. There we go. It's a skinny tuna, that one. Okay. And then what we can do is we can add some splash marks. And then what I might do, I might change my colour. And where am I? Colour here. And I'm going to go back down to, actually I might use a brush. Okay. And I'm going to, go here, make another layer. There we go, down. And add the water with a brush. And there we have a right whale. And if we spend more time on it, we can create something pretty amazing. And if I was doing that in a piece of paper, I'd be throwing some salt and things on that to make it go beautifully and splotchy and textured. Okay, so I reckon, let's bring the camera back up and we can stop sharing screen. There we go. Bring the camera back up so you can see me again in my messy studio. Here we go. So I know I've been drawing for a very long time, and just like anything, when you practice it a lot, you get good at it. And our muscles learn how to do things as much as our brains learn to do things. Our muscles learn things. They remember things as well. And drawing is a part of that. So when you practice and practice and you use those books that show you the different shapes that you can use to build a picture, they're really, really good. They're fantastic ways of learning how to draw something so that you can then eventually go off and just draw it without using those shapes. When I'm learning to draw something new for a book, a new animal that I haven't done before, or cars, I'm terrible at cars, I always use shapes to teach myself, and I practice and practice and practice before I then go on and do the book. And my muscles learn how to draw it that way. So just as if I was a musician or a sports person, I just have to practice what I do. And so I can make it look a little easy. I understand that, but you can do amazing things. And so if you go and download that sheet, you will be able to practice and practice, and you'll have it there. And you can even trace over things sometimes to help you to develop that muscle memory. And don't worry if it doesn't look exactly the same as the photograph of something, because, you know, if we wanted the photograph, we'd get the camera out. And art is all about expressing ourselves and telling our own stories. So I think you'll be able to tell amazing stories with drawing whales. I don't know. Does anyone have questions, or what would you like to do with that? Is that possible? Or
How long have you been writing and enjoy doing art? All of your life?
Well, the art, definitely all of my life. I supposedly went to bed, mums do that, don't they? They tell you stories. But I used to go to bed with pencils and books rather than teddy bears and dolls and other toys. So I've always loved drawing. My earliest memories are drawing, and I've always loved stories. I've always loved reading. I was one of the lucky kids that learned how to read really early. I know it's hard for some people, but stick with it. It's really worth it. You go to amazing places if you can read stories, or just being able to tell stories. That's what's really important. So I grew up in a family of storytellers. So I always loved the idea of telling stories with what we call visual narrative. That's telling stories using pictures. And so I thought, oh, it'd be great. I could be an illustrator. And then someone encouraged me, after I'd been illustrating for a short while, to have a go at writing stories. And so I gave it a go. And within a year, I'd actually had a book published, and I've been going ever since. And I love both illustrating and telling stories with words as much as each other. So my first book came out, the one that I wrote, came out in 2007. And it was about, you can see it there, it looks like a cat tail. It's about the Tasmanian devils, which are the funny little creatures that we have down here. You've got a cartoon character from Warner Brothers called Taz, and he spins around really fast, and that's based on Tasmanian devils. So so that was my first book. But so I've been illustrating professionally since 2000, and 2007 my first book came out that I wrote, and I've been going ever since. I'm trained as a teacher, an art teacher, and so now I get to go to schools and draw and talk to kids about writing and how to tell stories, because stories are my passion. But you don't have to be able to write a story. It's more about telling the story in the way that you need to tell it, whether it's drawing or painting or photography or writing or poetry or songs. That's my passion, is storytelling.
I think David's
turned out to look more like a, I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh, I can vaguely, yes, just it's not bad. It's pretty good. I can see where the mouth is. That says whale to me.
I think
definitely. Yeah.
Whiskers, it could be a catfish.
Well, it's a very big catfish. That would be terrifying to run into one that big. And whale meets catfish. There you go. Cool.
Don't let him fool you. David is very talented. I've seen some of his paintings and artwork. He's very good.
Yeah, looks all right to me. Well done.
No.
Pardon, what was that?
I'm going to keep trying. That's
the way. It's the only way. If I'd have decided to be an illustrator based on the first picture I ever drew, I would never have become an illustrator. No one would have employed me. I had to practice and learn, and so yeah. And now it's something I love doing. I love doing it, and we should do it just because we enjoy it. Just because you don't end up with a picture that hangs on a wall or it goes in a book. It's something that we should just do because we enjoy it. And then if you do make it into a job, or if you do make it into a hobby where you do hang stuff up, then that's great. But the most important thing is enjoying it. And if you don't enjoy it, the pictures won't be any good anyway. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Any more questions, David?
I don't think I have any other questions.
Very good.
Well, is this your first book that's available in the US, or all your other books available in the US?
I think some of my books are available if you go on to places like Amazon and stuff. Some of them are actually out of print now, which is sad, but we're working on getting them back into print. But a number of them, you can get them on Amazon. I'm not sure if they're available in stores in America, but so Welcome Home Wales is my first trade book available that's been printed in US by Blue Dot Kids Press, who are just the most amazing publisher, because they donate all sorts of stuff, and trees get planted for every book that gets published and sold, and they run all sorts of different environmental awareness programs. So it was the perfect place for Welcome Home Wales to land and find a home in the US. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah. And hopefully I'll get a few more, who knows? It'll be exciting. And I'm enjoying visiting the US via Zoom, because I don't think I'm going to get there anytime soon. I've never been to the US, but I have some American friends who live down here, and so I'm learning a lot about all the different places. I've been to quite a few to chat, so it's really lovely to kind of have that connection and learn about where your books now live. It's like children who grow up and leave home. So it's good. Okay.
Well, I've enjoyed this.
I really have too.
Oh, good. Excellent.
I guess you could say meeting you like this.
I know.
Meeting you in person, but
Yeah.
And if you ever want to come visit, we will happily find a place for you to stay and to put you
lovely.
up. Our winters, it's North Carolina is such a strange place. It's not the largest state, but geographically it goes from the mountains to the flatlands to the beach. They used to call it the slogan was the variety vacation land, because 4 hours this way you're in the mountains. Beautiful.
Yes.
And
wow.
Go to the middle of the state, 4 hours you're here on North Carolina's coastlines are different. You should look up on the Outer Banks and different. So it's a little bit different of a state. It's almost a microcosm,
Oh, wow.
of the U.S. in one.
Yep.
And North Carolina has a lot of interesting facts. And I'll tell you one thing, and then I will zip my lips. But we are in the area. If you look on a map, you'll see that we are in the center of what's called the Uwharrie, which is a Native American term, Uwharrie National Forest. And we have a small mountain. It's only 1,600 feet now, but at one time, that was the largest mountain outside of, I think, what is it, Mount McKinley or something in the United States, but millions of years of erosion. Yep. And so it's a very interesting little state. So if you decide to come visit, we will definitely be able to find someone to put you up.
It sounds
delightful. You can go to the mountains and you can go to the beach. And we have lots of aquariums and lots of people that love fishing for small fish for personal. Yep. And we have lots of sharks, and I've seen whales and dolphins at the beach. So
beautiful.
Probably not as majestic as the ones that you've seen. So do you have plans to go on a trip soon if you can? Whale watching.
I'm not allowed out of the country at the moment. We've actually been told we're not allowed out. But in our brave new world, when it finally settles, it would be a very exciting thing to do. I've got family in Europe, and we can't get to them at the moment either. But thank goodness for Zoom and being able to chat and catch up with people. It's a really special thing. And I'm lucky. I live in the wonderful thing about Tasmania being an island. We say we've got a nice moat around us. We've actually been COVID free completely since May last year. So some of us are a little nervous about leaving at the moment, But oh yes, well done. So we only have to wear them when we go to the airport, or if we go on the boat with a ferry that takes us across to what we call the Big Island or mainland Australia. So we haven't ever had to wear masks in public. Some we choose to sometimes, but no, we've been very, very lucky down here. Hopefully it stays that way. But once everything settles and we find our new footing in this new way of living, and it will be very exciting to be able to travel again. It'll be lovely.
Well, on the up part about it, I've not had any sinus infections. I have not had any coughs or cold this last year. So I said, I'm just going to get here's my Van Gogh one right here.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. I love Van Gogh.
I said, I'm going to keep wearing them because I have not been sick in like 18 months.
It's so good, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes. So, but no, yes, I understand what you mean. Australia's done well.
Well, they're suffering a little at the moment.
They're suffering a little bit at the moment. But,
yeah. But we have done reasonably well.
Yes, that's good.
We just need to get more people vaccinated, and then we'll be underway, I think. Yeah.
Christina,
but we can be grateful for a lot.
Can you see the chat? Can you see the chat box?
Yes.
There's a question.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh, hello, Peyton.
Way to go, Peyton. Great job.
Hi. I know what it's like to be shy. I know I don't look like I'm shy, but I'm actually really shy. I find Zoom actually is a little bit easier when you're shy. But I'm really glad that you enjoyed learning how to draw a whale, and I hope you keep practicing. It's just, so well done. Thank you for letting me know. That's really nice, because I can't see who's out there. So I feel like, how many out there? So it's nice to know you're out there. So hi. Well done.
Screen, but here, I'll show it to you because she wanted you to see it. Hang on. Maybe y'all can see her little whale. Where is it?
Down.
I saw the fish. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
isn't that brilliant? Well done. That's beautiful.
That looks like a whale to me.
That's a whale.
Very good. Well done, Peyton. That's so good.
Or catfish.
Oh.
Cootie, how old is
them all looking the same?
Cootie, how old is Peyton?
She's 9.
Wow.
Oh, well done you. That's
very
so good. Got my earrings stuck in my scarf. There we go.
Very good. Very good. I like your whale earrings. Those are cute.
Yes. I bought them when I did the book for Australia. That was actually published in, oh my gosh. I have to check it. I forget. It's at the back. Yeah, sometimes they put all the info at the back.
I know.
So this one came out in 2013 in Australia. So yes, so it's really nice to be able to get
2000 American edition 2020.
Yes.
So you lightened up 2020 for us. Thank you. Well, David, do you think that she'll do it?
Have I lost everybody?
Oh, there you are. Okay. You're fine.
Yeah, cool.
Are you ready? You think that's enough?
I think you've done a
wonderful job.
Thank you. My pleasure.
It's been absolutely wonderful to talk with you, and wish you the best of luck on all your future endeavors. Hope to see more of your books here in the U.S.
Me too. That'd be good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me and inviting me to join you all. So lovely. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. I better go and let my builders back into my studio.
Okay. Yes, you've got work to take care of. And we've really enjoyed having you. So we love the book, and we're going to run Peyton, we're going to run a contest.
Yes.
And give away a copy of her book and a gift basket. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. Lovely to meet you both and everyone else out there. Hi. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.